Sadako was released on the 8th of March this year. On release, her power was unique, fun to play as and against, the only real problem with her power being its balance. Sadako would find herself among the lower tier killers. Despite this, she was still overall well received. Her distinct and enjoyable power was enough to make up for her strength issues. Unfortunately, just under 4 months later, her power would become almost redundant with the release of the Dredge. But how did the release of the Dredge do this? To put it simply, the Dredge's power is just Sadako's, but better. Sadako can teleport to fixed locations, so can Dredge, except there's much more place he can teleport and his cooldown is much less. Sadako has a passive ability, but survivors can just choose to ignore it, unlike Dredge's passive, where you should get some value of it in most games. Sadako has a chaser power, so does Dredge, except his can be used in more situations. Overall, the Dredge just outshines Sadako in almost all situations. Sadako has yet to receive any changes to her power since she is released to the live game. I think it's time to receive a small buff to her kit. This is how I would buff Sadako. Before I explain exactly how I'd buff Sadako, I'd like to go over the problems her power faces and then offer my solution. Let's start with her teleport. Sadako's teleport ability allows her to traverse the map fast and at any point she wants. Simply hold M2 for 1.5 seconds, then pick any available TV. The main problem arises with the cooldown. After she teleports to a TV, she must wait 100 seconds before teleporting to that specific TV again. This time is especially strange considering the TVs are only turned off for 60 seconds when turned off by a survivor. This means as a survivor it is better to just leave the TVs be, because Sadako can turn them off for longer. To fix this, I'd simply reduce the teleport time to 60 seconds. This way survivors now have some reason to turn off the TVs, but that doesn't mean they always should. They'll have to make the choice between leaving the TV on and risking Sadako having an easy way to them, or turning it off and be safe for him to kill her, but having to deal with condemnation. Now let's look at her passive. Sadako's passive, Condemnation, gives the survivor 1 stack of condemnation every 25 seconds. Survivors may also instantly gain a stack if Sadako teleports to a TV within 16 meters of them. At 7 stacks, the survivor is revealed by Killer Instinct for 6 seconds and be killed when put into the dying state. Survivors may also receive stacks of condemnation by turning off a TV or retrieving a tape. Finally, survivors may lose stacks if they reinsert the tape into a designated TV. The main problem with her passive being, as mentioned before, it can be completely ignored by the survivors. Her passive Condemnation only happens if a survivor has a tape in their hand, so if a survivor never touches a TV, they can only gain stacks by Sadako teleporting to them, and the chance of Sadako teleporting close to you 7 times in a single game is extremely unlikely. Even if she does manage to do that, you can simply take a tape and reinsert it in less than 30 seconds. To fix this, I'd add a new way to get passive Condemnation. When a survivor is within 60 meters of a turned on TV, if they look at the screen, the passive Condemnation timer will start, and can only be removed if they reinsert a tape. This means if a survivor wants to try and avoid condemnation altogether, they'll have to constantly move their view away from the TVs. This means it would be easier for Sadako to sneak up on them, lending to her stealth capabilities. I also think this would be faithful to the movie, because in a movie, the 7-day countdown starts once you watch the tape for the first time. This change would give survivors a choice: be more aware of their surroundings, but be cursed, or not be cursed, but have to play around TVs the whole time, leaving themselves more susceptible to attacks. Finally, my last change would be a slight buff to her chase power. In case you didn't know, once Sadako manifests, her flickering effect lingers for 4 seconds. During this time, she'll be visible for half a second, and invisible for 0.5 seconds. You can use these 4 seconds to mind game survivors at loops. This is her chase power. The only slight problem being that 4 seconds is a little too short. To buff this, I'll extend it to 5 seconds. This would allow Sadako players to have a little more time to mind game the survivors. That concludes all the changes I'd make to Sadako. My goal was to buff her a bit so that her power can be consistently used throughout the match and to make her stand on her own when compared to the Dredge. Hopefully these changes will do that. If you have any changes you'd make to the buffs I proposed in this video, please leave a comment. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, please consider subscribing. Finally, I'd recommend you watch one of my previous videos if you'd like to see more. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.